Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So I'm going to take you through the stock ST8 settings for the little Kabolite excavator, and this is the case 961-100S I think it is. I'm going to take you through all the stock settings on it, so if you've managed to reset your transmitter or you've lost all your settings or you're just setting up an excavator on one of these ST8, it'll give you a good baseline of where you can actually start from. And then I'll show you a few settings that I've changed on mine, because the way these set trim up on it was a bit weird, and there's a few other settings that I've changed, and I'll run you through that as we go through it. But let's bring you in for a close-up look and see how we get on with this one. So first off, we'll power up the transmitter. First thing you'll notice is I've got some switches centered and down, and it's not giving me the annoying warning. We've got the voltage, which is the internal batteries, and regardless of what it says in instructions, these operate fine off of AA rechargeables. So if we go into TX, in as model, you can see I've named it, and we've got the picture. So you can just go in model name and you can name it, and if you go into type you can go through and select what you want your model to be. You can also copy that to another model memory if you like, but if we look at stick mode, we're in M2, so channel 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Calibration is always a good one to do if you've done any firmware updates or anything, and for that you just go into it. It says leave everything centered, so we start it, move sticks to the maximum travel, I think this is, yeah, them. So then you're fully calibrated. I don't think I've got anything assigned to them. System settings. Now I've got the alarm sound for system and alarm, volume 5. Alarm time, I've got it set to 20 minutes so it doesn't constantly go off. Vibration will go on system and alarm. Then we've got the battery set to others, battery alarm voltage set to 4.2 volt, LEDs, I've got them set to reflect power, so you can have all different colours, or you can have it set to power. I like it set to that. You've got your LED brightness, I usually have this on 50. Then you've got your screen brightness. I've got this turned down to 10% so the camera can actually see it, but it does go up quite bright, but it tends to blow it out on camera, so I'll leave it low for the time being. Contrast to help you see the screen, so you can set it to what contrast level you want. And then we've got timeout set to 30 seconds. And this is just for the backlight. And then auto shutdown I've got turned off. So then if we look through switch settings, we've got what they're actually set to and whether you've got them enabled or not. So you configure this to what your switches are. If you swap a 2 position out for a 3 position, you can go in here and change them. And then your variable ones, whether you've got them turned on or not. And then throttle, whether it's self-centered or not. And then this is where you set the number of channels. I've got it to 12 because we've got a 12 channel receiver in, I believe. Boot settings is where you turn the switch self-check on or off. So there's no configuration, it either wants them all up or it'll moan at you, or you turn it off. And failsafe prompt, if you've got your failsafe set or not, you can have that. So you can have it so it's either on or off, and it'll warn you if your fail-safe's not set if you haven't set it. But yeah, I've got this turned off because you don't want your lights on all the time, and that one is set for the grabber, and I just want it in middle. I don't want to have to turn them up all the time when I turn my transmitter on. So then if we go into general, if we go into monitoring, we can see what channels are doing. So we've got channel 1, which will do our actual bucket where it's actually angled at. And if you see, we've got a mix running to channel 5, and that's what the actual pump's set on. Then we've got the big arm, and that's on channel 2. And you can see the mix is only set to operate in one direction because your pump motor will only run one direction. Then we've got channel 3, and this is also mixed. Channel 3 is the little arm. Channel 4 is the actual bed swiveling. Then channel 8 we're using as the light switch. We've got channel 6, which is the left track, channel 7, which is the right track. And then if we move on to this one, we've got channel 9, which is used for the grabber and assigned to this switch. And then the button on the back on this side, if I can find it, is set for channel 10, and that's for the hammer action of the breaker. So we've still got channels 11 and 12 that are spare, so we can assign them if we want at a later date to something else. If you look at the reverse channels, so 1's reversed, 2's normal, 3's reversed, 4 and 5 both set to normal, 6 reversed, 7 is normal, 8's reversed. Then if we scroll across, we've got 9, 10, 11 and 12 all set to normal. Obviously this will depend on which excavator you're setting up. Now this is one thing that I don't get how it was to start with. So for me, I've set my sub trim on channel 5 because the pump was creeping slightly before any of the mixers came in. So I've set the sub trim to -10. That'll stop your pump prematurely running. It just needed backing off a little bit. And then for the speed, so as channel 7, I've got the endpoint set to 88%, because if I pressed forward on both these, it'd kind of pull to one side. So you can set your trim for your endpoint, for your high position, and that'll make it so you can just whack both levers up and it'll go in a straight line. And then all the rest we've got set at 100 on the endpoints. Channel speed is quite handy. Now I haven't got this currently enabled, but if you turn it on, you can also assign a switch to do it, and we have got switches that we're not using on this, so you could set that switch. And then basically any channel you can set a slight delay, so as you start to move it'll slowly pick up speed and get to full. Even if you go full, it'll give it a slow delay, and you can set that in 0.1 of a second. So I may go through, do a video on how to enable that, and that's available on all the channels. Then we've got as auxiliary channels, and this is where you set what dial does what, or what switch. So channels 6 and 7 we've got to VRC and VRD, that's these two on the top. Then switch A, for channel 8, which is what his lights are on. Channel 9 we have switch C, which is grabbers on. And then key 2, which is the one on the back down here, for the breaker, for the hammer action. And you can see as other channels aren't assigned to any particular button or dial. 5 is as pump, so that's not assigned to anything. But you could assign it to a switch if you want to switch the pump on and off and not have it mixed. Trims is where the trim was set for the pump, so it had got a minus set in here. Now, I don't like to set the trims on these. I'd rather do it on the sub trim, because then I know it's always correct, and have these on 0 so you can fine tune with these. Not really sure why they set it up that way, because it's a bit more awkward to actually mess around setting this, but that's how they chose to do it. I'd rather do it on the sub trim. Mixers, now these are all set the same, so anything that's running as hydraulic. So if we look, we've got the mix status set to on. Then we're not having it on a switch because we want the mix to work all the time. We've got channel 1 mixing with channel 5. So if I show you what that does, you see the actual pump, the slave channel, will always go the same direction. Now if you're trying to set this up, it's this setting. So as stock, it'll be, so I believe the stock setting would be 100. So if you look, channel 5 is moving in the opposite direction, but we only want it to move in one direction. So you need to set this on all your mixers, so the normal direction is -100. Once this is set to -100, our mix for his pump will always increase in the right direction. So if we look through at his next mix, this one's going to be mixing for channel 2. So everything's the same except master is channel 2. And then as third and final mix, channel 3 will be on this one. And again, we've got the -100 to make the pump run in the correct direction all the time. And I think that just about covers it. The main changes what I've done are in the TX settings. So in the system settings, I turned volume down a bit, set the alarm time to 20 minutes, set this to others so I can set my battery low alarm to 4.2 volt. Got my LED set to power, and then the other change what I did was in endpoints. Where I put in my -10 on the sub trim for the actual pump. But if we go to channel monitor and we then power up our little excavator, so we should be able to see what all this mixing and that does. So you can see what his mixing's actually doing. And it does give you quite a lot of control over it. Then we've got his lights, and then if we go over a page, we've got that which would operate the grabber, and then if I can find it, the button that would operate for the actual breaker. And then if I come back, and you can see that these channels, one of them's reversed. And then we don't have a mix on that because it's not running hydraulic. It is quite a powerful little transmitter. It's very useful. Also, I did turn off the warning. I think it's right down on the bottom of this menu. on the boot settings, so I turned that off. So when I turn it on, it doesn't make me have this and this in the up position. You might not want your lights on, you might not want this, and there's nothing that's currently assigned to these switches that's going to cause a problem if they're not set. So I wanted that off. It gets really annoying, and it's nice not to have the transmitter beeping its head off at you. Do like the fact that we get the BVD voltage of the actual pack in the RC, and then up here we've got as TX icon and as TX voltage and our little signal, and it's quite nice. You get the little picture of the excavator, and then round here on these four we have got as trims, and on that one, because it's set to channel 5, you could hear the pump slowly firing up. But yeah, you can change that in the actual trim menu, and you can change which these are set to. It's the one that's in, I think it's set as actual trims. So if we go in here, see we've got trim set to channel 5. So all them at the minute are going to duct pump. You've got T1 and 2, T3 and 4. So you can come in here and change these to whichever you want. And these are the channel numbers. So I think we've got 3 and 4 on that one, if I remember rightly. And then on that one we've got 1 and 2. So now if you move the trim, you'll see it starts moving. Channel 3. So if you do get creep, you can just quickly move the trim. I wouldn't have these set to channel 5 because you're probably not going to mess around much with your pump settings. But yeah, it were a little confusing how they'd got all these set to channel 5, which meant all trims did channel 5, which were pump, and really that should really be set under your endpoints and sub trim. So as you see, I've got it set to -10, because if I turn it up, you might just be able to hear the pump is just starting to run. So I just set it down to -10 and it stops the pump running. But hopefully that covers most questions that people might have on this. But yeah, really nice transmitter, really easy to use, really configurable. And that's the base settings that I've got for this excavator. But they'd pretty much work for most. The only thing you'd have to change is if for whatever reason you've got an excavator where this top moves by hydraulic, you'd want to bring the pump in on the channel what you're using for that. So if it's channel 3 for argument's sake, or 4, can't remember what it is. So we've got channel 4. So you'd want to set up another mix, obviously, to run the pump when you're moving your excavator about. But other than that, you've got other channels, auxiliary channels that you could set to switches or variable dials. So we've got this switch that's not used, we've got this switch that's not used, and we've also got the button on the back here. So you've got 3 options that you could set to 3 other channels. If you want to control anything else, you've got plugged into it. But that should just about cover most of the questions. If you have got any other things you need to know about this transmitter, then by all means leave a comment below. But let's wrap this one up. So there we have it. Basic excavator setup for the ST8. It's almost how this one comes, should I say, but I have changed a few settings. I just found it really annoying every time you turn on the transmitter for it to warn you and say you need to have these switches up. I get it if you're flying, but running an excavator, chances are you're not going to want lights on all the time, or you're not going to want your grabber in the grab or release position all the time, and it just got really annoying. The alarm going off after a few seconds of not touching it, that is also really annoying. And it's handy to know how to change the battery setup for it. So when you're running it on, I think I'm just running it on AA's, so the EBL AA batteries, and it runs absolutely fine off them. But you don't want the alarm set at the same as LiPo settings, so it's going off when you're at like 7 volt or whatever, or 6 volt, whatever it's set at. But yeah, hopefully you find that useful or entertaining, or just like listening to my incessant ramblings. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.